Now you missed us. We're back now. So we're going to continue talking about what it means to live in fear versus abundance and how to break the chains, you guys. So I know how many things I've come up against in terms of fear and how I've like guerrillaed my way through them, you know. But I want to hear from you ladies.
Yeah.
What kinds of things have you come up against with the haters? I mean, when you decided, Danielle, to start your business, and I know you've had several businesses, so any of those examples are great. I mean, things that you've come up against, like the naysayers. Do you remember any times where you felt like, oh my God, Jesus,
Yes.
how am I going to get through this?
Yes. So the first one that comes to mind is I owned a CrossFit gym back in New Jersey. And I had that for about 7 years, and I loved it. It was fulfilling. I loved my clients, my coaches. It was just me. It was my world. But I felt like that is how people knew me. Oh, Danielle Greene, that owns CrossFit Lithium. We were the first one in the area. It got to a point where in that last year, it was so... it was just consuming me in a negative way. I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. I didn't want to be there. I was not being the way I should have been with my clients or my coaches. And I knew that I had to make a change, but I didn't know how to do it or really what to do. Could I sell the business? Should I just close it and walk away? I was so afraid of what other people were going to think. Did she fail? Is she closing because, think of all the reasons that people would think negative thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just coming to their own conclusions. So I struggled with that for a few months, and thankfully my husband, who supports really everything that I do, he's like, look, you have to, I'm going to use a phrase that maybe I shouldn't, shit or get off the pot.
We love that phrase.
Yeah, we're familiar with that language.
You need to figure out if you're going to sell it or you're going to stay, but you need to make that decision now because you are not happy as a person, and it's very obvious to everybody. So I decided to sell it, and in that moment, when I was telling my coaches that I was going to move forward with that, one of my coaches said, well, I want to buy it from you. And that was kind of like the turning point. It was the easiest thing ever in the world. It was a turnkey business. Here you go. Here's your key. Give me my check. See you later. Here's the clients. Here's the coaches. And it left a very positive, imprint on the community and everybody there, really. And that allowed me to move forward. So that fear held me back probably for the better part of almost a year. And I was miserable. But I was letting it take over. And then as soon as my husband gave me the little push, hey, you need to, I kind of had to step out of that and think of the future. So that was like really...
I think sometimes the people that love you are the people that really love you and they're not living in fear are the ones who say, what are you doing? You can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. You know? And sometimes you need their permission to go for it because that almost gives you permission to fail forward.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like the people in our lives, the people who really stand for us and really love us, they remind us of who we really are. Mm-hmm. In other words, like the woman who created that is also the woman who is capable of making a change and creating something else.
Right.
So I think you talk about a beautiful situation where you had someone in your life that reminded you who you are and reminded you to take the courage and take it back so you could create something else that you wanted.
Yeah.
Change
awesome.
is really scary. Change is
It
really,
is,
really
absolutely.
scary. Yeah.
And sometimes you need that extra validation, from the like you deep inside you really know because you know what you're capable of, you know what you're gonna do, you know you're not happy, you know that you need a change, but sometimes you need that validation from somebody that really knows you and you know that they care about you. Hey, like you can do this, and you're like, yeah, you're right, I can do this. Let's just do it,
Yeah. And you're like what you were doing, Danielle, was totally redefining yourself, and it's like way out of your comfort zone to completely redefine yourself. Like your identity was that one thing. So when you think about changing your identity, oh my gosh, even though the actual process of it isn't that scary and isn't that hard, it's internally what we feel when we're thinking about totally.
The internal fears are often more damaging than the actual doingness of it, right? I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, the doingness of it is really hard too. I'm not saying that, but it's like, it's the monster in your mind that keeps you shackled to a situation that is not good. I mean, I experienced that even in my marriage. I've experienced that in many times in my life. So I know exactly what that feels like, and it really is a damaging, soul-sucking feeling.
Yeah. And I think too, not knowing what was going to come after was a huge part of that. I'm like, okay, well, if I move forward from this, what do I do? Who am I? How do I move forward?
And you know what? And that's when you just don't think about the hows, right?
Exactly.
Don't think about the hows, which is a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Because how do you not think about the hows?
Right.
You know, the hows are what's going to make it happen, right?
Exactly.
No, not necessarily.
So the hows are really, it's so interesting that you say that, because the hows are actually the polarity of where we live. So we get so stuck on the how that we never get to the how. So, you know, this is part of the thing. The how can serve, and it can also shackle you just the same. So I think it's really important to start, you know, to work from within and create the courage and the space and allow the how to come to you, because it will always reveal itself if you get out of the way. You know, if you allow it to.
100%.
I mean, the reality is, without change, there isn't growth.
Oh my gosh, not at all.
You know, so that's where you're climbing this ladder in life, and you're growing as you conquer those fears. You do. Do you have any examples of? I mean, you've done so much with your career. I mean, I can't imagine how many haters you've come up against.
I mean, I don't like to focus on the word haters, because for me that's like can be like sometimes like negative. So I just I'm like
it is.
I focus on the positive people around me and the people that supports me, and you know, like,
that's how you got through it, right there.
You know, one of the examples that I really like enjoyed your story. You know, my initial idea about practicing was actually in Puerto Rico. So, you know, I graduated with a lot of debt, no money at all. You know, I'm a doctor of chiropractic. Let's change the world. All right, so I'm going to my island, open my own practice. It's going to be awesome. I tried to do everything in the world to take the test, like basically the state boards.
Right.
And basically the government, of course, they misplaced my paperwork. So they say, oh, you cannot take the test. You have to wait 6 more months to reapply. I'm like, I don't have 6 more months of my life to be what? Like going to the beach, having sun? So you know what? So I said, you know what? It's okay. With my broken heart, I left Puerto Rico and I came back to the States. And you know, I was homeless for 2 months because I said, you know what? I'm not gonna be able to practice in Puerto Rico for now, but Florida is pretty awesome because it's bilingual, there's a lot of Latin culture, it's like the best of the both worlds. But you know, it was a really hard thing because when you don't have any money, and everybody's like, why you don't get a job? Start working with another doctor, get some experience. I'm like, no. I always, since I started, I'm not gonna work with anybody, I'm gonna create my own thing, and I know it's gonna work out. How? No idea. But I know it will. So, you know, a lot of people, even my family was really worried about me because I was like sleeping in people's couches in South Florida, visiting doctors, talking to people. How do you do this? Like, what is, you know, to be a doctor and a chiropractor?
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Just
wow.
And, you know, and then, you know, like, and it got really, really rough because when you have any money and you're here in debt, and you don't have any experience about how to open a business, you know?
And you're from another country.
Yeah.
I mean, you think you're doing hard things, you're not. Okay?
But you know what? Everything, like when you're clear,
I need some of that juice.
When you're clear in your intentions and you know what you're made of, and you have people that actually believe in you, and you know that you have done it before, because when you look into your life, try to focus on other times in your life that you have created things and they have worked out. When things, they actually start getting rough, I think a key is like, if I did this before, I can do this now. So focusing on those small victories, and actually work out, and I'm living my best life here. So you know?
Amazing.
Wow.
That is amazing.
That's awesome.
I will say 2 things in my life that happened that I said, you can do anything if you didn't die from that. Elle was divorce and having a baby. Didn't die. Didn't die. And got real empowered from it.
You know,
Cripplingly empowered. Like,
but it's, you know, it's like they're joking. People say, like, but I always use that, but did you die? No. So let's keep moving. Did you die?
So we are committed to this conversation. I think we're going to pick this back up in another episode because there's just so much more to cover. But I just want to leave you with this. Think about what is fear really. I did hear a quote that I thought was awesome because it really just calls it out, calls it by name. Fear is a bridge to nothingness that leads nowhere. Love it.
It's so true.
It's just simple.
Can you repeat again?
Yeah.
Fear is a bridge to nothingness that leads nowhere.
There we go. Love it.
That leads nowhere. So stop letting other people determine your destiny. Stop letting them stop you from your dreams. Stop letting them put you down. Just be the light and move towards what you know is your true authentic calling, and just know that you will get through it. And the way that you become a successful person, and no matter what you're doing, is that you don't quit. That's the difference. It's really simple.
Keep showing up.
Keep showing
up
for yourself. Thank you so much for joining us. Like, follow, all the good stuff. You'll find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And hopefully one day you'll find us on your television screen. That's what we're going for. So now, I've got a surprise though. Next time we see you guys, we are going to unveil our very handsome cameraman. I know you're on the edge of your seat. Be excited, ladies.
It's so on.
Bring an extra pair of panties. Okay, we'll see you next time on Empowered and Unfiltered with Elle.